to my Patreon, everyone. I hope that everyone is doing well this beautiful day that you find this video. So last week I put out Kathara 101 Level 1, and today I have Kathara 101 Level 2. And if you're watching this for the first time on the Kathara is level 1 of the light body, the base radial manifestation template in which everything comes through for materialization and manifestation. So that level 1 Kathara, the 12 tree grid core scalar template looks like this. And if you are just finding this today, please go watch Kathara 101 Level 1 to understand more about this particular interface system of the body and of the planet. Okay, so today we will be focusing on Level 2. And this is on page 75, Level 2, Kathara, Crystal Seals, Grid, and Chakras. So this would be the page that you would need to essentially look at a little bit deeper here for a deeper understanding. So here we go. And this is also perfectly synchronistic, as this is going to bring up so much more perspective of some of these cosmic biological structures and their functioning according to the Kathara level development, which is an all happening simultaneous experience within the human template. For most people, they will activate one part of this or one understanding of this and then have to essentially take time to integrate that knowledge before they can be granted deeper perceivability of deeper concepts. And this is exactly how it works for me too. I'm only permitted to go so fast in the teachings because often there is accompanying inner work that has to go along. Programming I have to clear, perceptions that have to dissolve within my matter density structures of my consciousness, because the matter aspects, the matter density are the most dense. So here is where we push through our greatest breakthroughs of understanding, of consciousness, of integrating more photonic light intelligence, because the more perceivability of the photonic integration, because the photonic energy, the photonic light is essentially a boost in higher intelligence. It is a boost in higher consciousness. And the more that you keep testing those limitations and boundaries and pushing yourself during the expansion and contraction cycles, the more that you're going to be able to integrate the next time you come around. You just only gain more strength within the ability to perceive more quantum perception, more experiential references to the actual processes of the quantum shifts, integrations, transmissions, and all of the changes and processes that go into your evolution, essentially, your overall evolution of your light body, of your DNA, and of your molecular structures. And really, source can only be integrated in pieces. So much of the higher triadic wave radial intelligence, the level identities, these also integrate from a horizontal plane of identity, three identity level stations as well, in sets of 5. So this would essentially be what is called the HOVA bodies. HOVA actually means tritonal scalar grid. And this is this here. So this would be the 5 HOVA bodies. And I like to think of this as the horizontal plane of expansion and contraction. So we're going through a lot of different expressions of how Source is integrating contraction and expansion, ascension and descension, fission and fusion. These are all multidimensional aspects that are processes of our subconscious cycles and our integration of light intelligence and consciousness through matter density bodies as well. But essentially, on the horizontal plane, I do feel that the Hova bodies are where you integrate higher level identity in sets of 3-dimensional level identities. So 1, 2, and 3, 4, 5, and 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. And it's the radius on a horizontal plane. Is how you can kind of think of the Hova bodies. Another structure of the level 2 Kathara I feel is important to take note of is the vertical ascension column. So in this picture, the column runs all the way from MC15, which is deep space, up through the Earth's core, down below the center of the feet, up through the center spinal column, all the way up through the crown chakra, all the way up above the head, and once again up into deep space. So this vertical ascension column is what one goes through their wave patterns, bipolar and tripolar wave patterns. Not only are they feeling that on the horizontal plane, but very much on the vertical ascension. The vertical ascension encompasses all of the primary structures of the level 2 aspects of the Kathara. It encompasses the 15 chakras. It encompasses the 15 star crystal seals, and it encompasses the different types of crystal seals. So there are 3 different types of seals within these particular seals as well. So one will typically come in to the perception of vertical ascension first, because they will come into a perception that they're going up and down in frequency. So that is the most primary perception of ascension that people really come to realize is this vertical column. The horizontal plane level identity integration usually comes later in physical body ascension. A lot of people really don't make it to that level of awareness because it is hard to specifically identify every experience throughout your journey, and that's why I love this spiritual healing program, is because essentially it really kind of lays it out in a level of perceivability to really understand what's going on a structural level. What is happening within the body? Where is consciousness going? What is consciousness doing? What is consciousness integrating? This really, really lays it out for us to understand the vertical ascension process. So this will usually come into the consciousness and it emerges as an activation of the light body. And it comes through a pre-conscious cognition through encoding and geometrical mathematical codes. Okay, those who are very in tune to synchronistic and mathematical patterns, this is a clear indicator that they're going through ascension when number synchronicities become their guiding force as higher consciousness is projecting, usually up from one of these dimensions up here down to the conscious mind number synchronicity pattern to then be recognized by the conscious mind. So that is one indicator that somebody is fully ascending up and down on that vertical ascension column. But essentially, there's a lot of other ways that it can integrate, because if somebody isn't catching on to the geometric or the mathematical or light encodements, it can shift into something more conscious awareness, such as animal spirit, archangel, anything causal related as ascension comes back down on the vertical column. And then if it's still not recognized by the conscious mind, sometimes it just straight up hits you on the head and basically drops a reality direction change bomb on you because you weren't paying attention. to let you know that you've integrated another part of the light body by according to what's most perceptionally perceivable on that vertical column. But there are several rounds of integration of one aspect of a light body structure. So one may spend a lot of time within specific chakras, specific dimensions, depending how much they have to clear on a dense level, including emotional suppression. All of this is actually physically, energetically held within these structures, held within the light body. If they can't get particle rotation up or oscillation up in a specific chakra or in accordance to a crystal seal, then they're not going to keep expanding on that vertical column. They may get stuck in a void space. They may get stuck in a perception until that can be overcome or until the light body activates again. And then it will break down and re-encode, geometrically restructure and re-encode, to then go for another round of expansion to see if one can actually bust through that crystal seal to integrate higher perception. If they're having a hard time integrating the next dimensional platform, a lot of times that can indicate that there is going to be an ego death that will need to occur to enter into that next round on a higher frequency wave within the vertical ascension column. This is all talking about vertical ascension right now. But there are several rounds of integration of one aspect of the light body structure, as each part of the light body holds higher level stationed identity, which is typically, like I said, is in those horizontal planes as well. Start thinking of it as a vertical and a horizontal. There's also angular ascension, angular particle rotation. When you go angular is really when you enter into spaces where interdimensionals are. I've noticed that on an angular tilt. And some of my visualizations and meditations, what I have found the most comforting is when I can go into an angular tilt according to the 23.5 pull axis. I'll actually visualize my light body structure at the top of the axis, and I ride that while on the earth. And it's very comforting for some reason. It's like my most favorite place to go. It's my secret hiding spot. Nobody in the world knows about it until now. I just shared it with you guys. So yeah, come meet me on the pole on the angular axial tilt of the planet, and we'll just ride that wobble together. It's comforting in the same way that the rock of the ocean is. It's strange. It's really strange, but if you can transfigure and bilocate your consciousness to this place, it is very a profound feeling. There's nothing like it. But essentially, yes, so a lot of these processes of integrating higher planes of level identity stations and higher consciousness can also be seen as an integration process called transduction. And this actually follows an order or a sequence of how consciousness comes into the biological form. The phases by which conscious energy is transduced and changes form. And these soft structures within the Kathara, okay, so all of these, I consider these to be the soft structures of the Kathara. These are like the guts of the Kathara. These are the mechanics of the Kathara. This one is essentially like the platform. This is the foundation. This is level 1. This is the core template. This is the foundation. This is the actual like mechanics. Okay, so this is actually getting into the specific mechanics of how this Kathara within the biological form actually works. And so there are these processes by which energy is transduced and changes form. This is exactly what these funnels here are. So each chakra, front and back, is like a funnel. shape, okay? And so consciousness or energy structure essentially has a wave particle rotation that comes, one is clockwise and one is counterclockwise. One is pulling particle matter in, one's pushing anti-particle matter out. And they're constantly going through these processes of transduction. Okay, and these processes, because there's a whole process of the transduction process, these are about the midway point of the transduction process, meaning so if you guys want to look at page 39, this is the transduction sequence. It represents the phases of consciousness that pass through into dimensionalization and the process by which conscious energy is transduced and changes form to enter the wave spectra within which perception of manifestation is possible. So it goes from consciousness to Partiki units, to Kathara scalar grid levels, 1, 2, and 3 to Partiki grids, to the morphogenetic fields, to the Merkaba fields, and then to the DNA, the RNA imprint, and to the bioenergetic auric field, to the chakras. So when I say this visualization of the level 2 here is a midway point to the transduction process, that's what I mean. It's about here. It's the center process of that, because it's the center process of your being. You could think of like these first processes here as like one side of the chakra wheel, right? And then it comes through the chakras, and then it's coming through the other side of the chakra. Let it be the other side of the chakra wheels. Meaning that these transduction sequence processes bring energy in from like here, from the bioenergetic field through here into the center column, okay? So it's kind of one-sided. It is particularly one part of the body. One part of the transduction process is what this is technically like illuminating here, as far as integration of quantum, integration of consciousness, integration of Partiki units. That goes from the chakras to the natal capsule, to the DNA, RNA manifest, to the nadis, to the nuclear core, and then to the biological rhythms, blood and brain chemicals, hormones, and organ tissues. So this is like I said, this basically breaks down the counterclockwise particle spin, which equates to the electrical expanding clockwise spiral. So it's very one-sided. It doesn't include the dematerialization process, which is the clockwise magnetic contracting counterclockwise spiral. And so I have this theory as to why the processes on the planet collectively, as the human unconscious collective continually like destroys the planet. It's because they are locked into the clockwise spiral of dematerialization, because within that perceivability, the particle spins are only going clockwise. So if planetary collective quantum consciousness is only rotating in a state of dematerialization, which keeps those unnatural death seals locked into place, then this would explain why like 90% of the planet, 70% of the planet, this would explain why the majority of the collective is destroying the planet, because they're locked in a specific particle rotation perception of consciousness integration, which I know dematerialization, and so dematerialization can also be seen as the processes of Bardo. I have just yet to be granted a structuralized breakdown of this process. I'm honestly still trying to figure out how to talk about it, because most people respond to the conversation from a place of fear. And I have noticed with some of the videos I have put out on YouTube talking about anything bridal related, I will always get somebody who responds with fear. So I'm really learning how to approach the perception, because I really don't want to be labeled a fear propagator, but I do want to be able to talk about the structures of these holographic fields, morphogenetic fields, and the processes of life, death, creation, reincarnation, planetary food systems, soul harvesting. I mean, you name it. You know, the real capacity of shifting dimensionally is being able to access all dimensions of creation, including first and second dimension. And there is this entire movement or process in the collective community of the spiritually awakened that really cannot fathom these concepts, because there's still limiting belief systems that have yet to dissolve, because the hooks of religion and of the Christian Catholic teachings are still running on a very deep level of programming that they have yet to identify. And that's okay, you know, that's not bad. Like, nothing is right or wrong here, to each their own in their own divine timing. For some, the ascension codes are not even set to initiate for another 200 years on this planet. So we are their future selves, and there are future selves of us living in the parallel now as well, on a higher oscillation of particle rotation than we are. So for many of us, that would be the Alcyon gate system. But essentially, these particular teachings that we are looking at today in bioregenesis do encompass all dimensions of creation, including the first and second dimensional frameworks of understanding, which are inner earth and core gate structures, which are passageways to perceptions, including the underworld, including pre-matter structures, pre-particle, dark matter, mother matter, deep space, reincarnation, transital, transharmonic, and so on. So also what's known as the koilon, which I remember this now. I couldn't seem to get it out in my last Kathara video. That's the actual name for the periodic element for the mother matter in the Charles Ledbetter book called Occult Chemistry. I highly recommend that read. I actually made a video on this. I'll be sure to post it into Patreon. If you haven't already seen it, it's on my YouTube channel. But just so you know, we are looking at one side of this picture today, technically when it comes to transduction, okay? And that's basically the flow of manifestation. This is a one-sided flow of manifestation, because we're not seeing the other half of the dematerialization process of it. But, you know, just kind of looking at the intake wheel of the chakra spin. I believe I have one here for that. So the chakras will actually draw energy in from and transmit energy into the unified fields of each dimension. Each chakra carries its primary color, the hue associated with the wavelength of the dimensional frequency band, which the chakra corresponds. And each chakra corresponds to a level of the auric field, and one of the axial tonal lines in each Hova body corresponds to a set of 3 chakras and contains the 3-dimensionalized frequency bands that form the levels of the auric field. So this is kind of what I meant by horizontal ascension. It's really tuning into the entire bioenergetic field on a horizontal plane, even on an angular plane, right? And I mean, that's kind of exactly what this is. If you can consciously go quantum within the rhythmic pulses of conscious primal life force currents that enter the species, then that is what the process is that we are highlighting here, and why this is important, right? There's also another page that you can kind of understand the transduction process a little bit better. That is page 30. That is page 269. This is the radial body transduction manifestation sequence. This really gets into the actual encoded primal life force currents and, you know, everything according to this mathematical blueprint. If you're really trying to understand it more, I just suggest reading this one. And it's highlighting the transduction process on this one from a planetary Merkaba field. And these knowledges do start to become important for expansion and contraction. For one, as far as the awareness goes within is as far as you're going to go in the other direction. So when you push yourself and expanding the intelligence, it's like a pendulum, you know? And I'm gonna put a video out after this one for bilocation. But as we get into bilocation, teleportation, transharmonic capacities of consciousness, we are going to focus on activating that planetary biofeed interface system. So understanding these things are only going to sharpen your ability to perceive these holographic structures through that interface planetary biofeed system. And we also have to look at this as we are beginning to put our light bodies back together, right? Because we are actually very complex light bodies. I just have this picture out here to show you, like, this is like a fully structured light body system. You have the large Merkaba here, and then there are sets of vortices. These would be the Hova bodies that come around. And then you also have other structures and flow rotations that are going on here. So you're visually piecing back together your light body piece by piece by piece by piece. Just getting the Merkaba visualization structure activation down is a blocking point for a lot of people. That point is blocked. The Merkaba is blocked. So once you get the Merkaba, you start reintegrating all these other structures. And the telluric shield, the Maharic shield, the Doradatic shield, these actually are multi-layered within that bioenergetic field as well. That's on page 243 if you want to look at this one. When you can visualize the detailed structures, you're really redesigning your ability to do some pretty incredible things as far as your spiritual development. Transharmonic, translocation, transbilocation, restructuring yourself as a Stargate system, restructuring yourself as a galaxy even. So as we go through bioregenesis, we're gonna, just keep going through techniques that are going to be geared towards putting our light body back together piece by piece, so we can start with the core structures. And we just need to be able to visualize the core structures for full functionality. The more that you can visualize, the more that you are going to decalcify that pineal gland and be able to activate these higher dimensional abilities of ancient teachings, ancient times. But yes, this picture here are the primary structures that are involved in the mechanics of primary vertical ascension. That encompasses awakening, physical body ascension, celestial ascension, and all of the lovely ascension symptoms that come along with this process, which is in accordance to the primary vertical Kathara lines and the horizontal, but like I said, most and first perceivable is that vertical ascension column. And ascension is the literal, tangible, scientific process of the evolution of consciousness and biology within the laws of energy mechanics that apply to a multidimensional reality system. Level 2 is like the spiritual meat and potatoes of the Kathara. This is the inner functioning and mechanics of the etheric software. And it is composed of much more complex structures than just circular funnel vortices or 7-dimensional chakras. In fact, it's much more complex than the 7-dimensional chakra body, taking one into integrating a 15-dimensional understanding of human holographic anatomy. So everything Kathara should start being seen as 15-dimensional. Up in the corner, you can see the names of the 15 chakras up in this corner here, so you can take a look at all of them. And these can differentiate according to your experience with the chakra systems. There are a lot other, guides out there in the world for you to follow as far as the specific names of the chakras, especially when you get up into dimensions 8 through 15. It varies because there's no definitive way to anybody to completely, until they create the ability to fully have these structures be visible through some type of provable machinery that they can identify the specific structures in accordance to the universal dimensions. This is such advanced technology that this isn't going to happen on this planet for another 200 years is what I'm saying. So that's why this varies, is because there's just so many different channeled versions of it. It really doesn't matter which one you follow specifically, just as long as you start understanding those higher dimensional frameworks in accordance to some type of guide. I recommend following this one because it's just pretty solid overall. And yeah, so either way you look at it, you're going to be way farther evolved than anybody really coming into spirituality, period. You're going to understand the higher dimensional structures so much more clairvoyantly than anybody else's perceivability, just by understanding this structure. You're far advanced in the game, so just don't worry about that perception too much. I don't even know why I'm stuck on it right now. But essentially, the chakras do work in synergy to the crystal star seals, and you can kind of think of it like 1 through 12 are the foundations of the physical matter body, and 13 through 15 are the Christed Palladorian cell light and the mother and father quantum that came together at the time of conception occurred, which created consciousness within this third dimensional physical matrix. So you stay in the dimension upon which that conception occurred until mother and father quantum are released, and we continue to carry that quantum throughout our entire life. So all of the structures of the Kathara level 2, such as the chakras, essentially the chakras are spinning away from the base of our spines in a clockwise motion and also a counterclockwise motion. One is receiving particle and the other is exporting antiparticle, and this can be really identified within the human subconscious cycles of even just breathing, the heart beating, sleeping and waking, multiple scales of this process in all 15-dimensional sets. These chakra seals are in accordance to the interdimensional color wave spectra and particle angular rotation of its particle spin. And as one goes through the continual processes of ascension through specific cycles and rhythms, expansion and contraction will take you into the horizontal planes of the bioenergetic fields, and waving will take you on the up and down of the vertical column. Fission and fusion, which merges particle and dimensions. Fission and fusion, which merges the energy for one time wave experience to another within the vertical and the horizontal planes. It's all very detailed, quantum complex ways of breaking down these processes, mechanics of perceptions as we go through ascension, and how we are identifying the experience of ascension in accordance to the level of perception that we are internally able to visualize and translocate and harmonize through, and even rationalize the experience. And that is why I love this system so much, is because this is, on some level, this is the rationalization of what we are experiencing. It's the closest thing that I've found to provide some explanation for the experiences and for the structures that we are, you know, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and physically transmitting, absorbing, reflecting, experiencing. So the star crystal seals, within the star crystal seals, there are actually different portions of the seals that keep human identity and auric levels dimensionally separated. So you have the planetary star crystal seals, which exist within the planetary Kathara, that are connected to us through the planetary biofeed interface system, not only on this picture, but they are also on page 34. So if you want to look at page 34, this breaks down the level 2 of the crystal seals. Okay, so the planetary star crystal seals, this pertains to the vertical ascension. And you have the planetary star crystal seals, which exist within the planetary Kathara, that are connected to us through the planetary biofeed interface system, not only on this picture, but they are on page 34. So what I mean is the planetary star crystal seals are connected to this planetary biofeed interface system. So you can think of these ones as the seals between the planet, Kathara, and the personal bioenergetic field, essentially. And they control the opening and the closing of the three vertical Kathara lines of the level 1 Kathara grid within the planetary body. That applies to the vertical ascension. Then you have the biological crystal seals, and everything on this picture, biological crystal seals, is going to be in accordance to the actual biological structure of the human. So those are the star crystal seals, and they do the same thing that the planetary crystal seals do on the vertical ascension column, just in the biological form. And this, like I said, always blah, 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 scratch. And then there are also the seed crystal seals here that do the same thing as the planetary crystal seals in the biological form. They control that particle wave on the horizontal Kathara lines, but also on the vertical, also on the Kathara. And there are technically frequency seals within the planetary and biological bodies that are modulating the wave spectra between the parallel dimensions of the frequency bands. So yes, it's pretty complex. I personally don't go into the details of the crystal seals too much unless I'm using it for visualization to do some type of healing, clearing, reprogramming. I seem to bypass through the crystal seal aspect because I feel that it was a part of my ascension that maybe just kind of happened, that I wasn't necessarily like too conscious, fully conscious of. It was like a very subtlety nature when we were going through that aspect of the clearing within the vertical ascension column. So yes, in my next video, Kathara level 3, we're going to talk about the meiotic and the deodotic points. And I guess the best place for studying of this level would be to just primarily understand the structures of this picture and really start to see yourself as this vertical ascension column. Start to visualize your auric field in accordance to the chakras as well, on a vertical and an angular expansion, contraction, and a wave. So start to just be able to understand that level 2 is the inner mechanics of ascension, and the more that you start to integrate those inner mechanics, the more that you're going to really be able to perceive and understand how far you've actually really come in your ascension, and where you're kind of at and where you have to look forward to as well, and how far you can go within the evolution of your consciousness, because you can go pretty far. And yes, so definitely study this picture for level 2. And I just wanted to thank you so much for staying with me on this video. I feel like this one got a little complicated. I felt myself just kind of like struggling getting through the expression of some of this, but I just wanted to thank you guys so much for tuning in for this video, and I'll be back with level 3 101 meiotic and deodotic points. So I hope you all have a beautiful rest of your day, and namaste. I will see you guys soon. I will be back with another video.